Hello and welcome to Premier League Today. Normal service resumed last night as Manchester City went back to the top of the table with a comfortable win over Brighton at the Etihad.
Yes, that's right, Alex. It took nearly an hour to break the deadlock, but Pep's men never looked in trouble after that, with Mahrez, Foden and Bernardo Silva getting the goals.
In the game of the evening, Arsenal put 4 past Chelsea in a 6-goal thriller to give their hopes of Champions League football a huge boost after previously losing 3 on the bounce.
And the action doesn't stop there. Burnley host Southampton tonight. Games are running out and the Clarets know that only a win will do to keep up with Everton, who are 4 points above them.
And that's because Everton managed to grab a late equaliser last night to get a precious point against Leicester. And in the other game, Newcastle made it 6 home wins in a row, seeing off Crystal Palace 1-0.
And in terms of what those results do to the table, down towards the bottom, Newcastle up to 11th. They're now closer to the European places than the relegation zone. And it's Everton who are still just clear of the relegation zone.
At the other end of the table, Manchester City back on top, 1 point clear of Liverpool. And after Arsenal's win last night, they're now level on points with their North London rivals, just outside the top 4 on goal difference. All very tight, isn't it? All very exciting.
Yes, it's going to be a brilliant end to the season here on the Premier League. We absolutely love it. Let's start with some news, shall we? You remember that not long ago, Patrick Vieira and Wayne Rooney were inducted into the Premier League's Hall of Fame. And over the last few weeks, we've been collating public online votes as to who should join them. And we can now reveal the 6 new inductees that have been announced this morning. They are Ian Wright, Peter Schmeichel, Paul Scholes, Didier Drogba, Vincent Kompany and Sergio Aguero. They will be formally honoured at a special event in London tonight. We're talking black ties, ball gowns. Only real superstars and celebrities have got an invite. Obviously, I've just left my tracksuit in the car. I'm not going. Did you get the call, Alex?
I am going, but I think your invite must be lost in the post, or you maybe haven't checked your post.
So
Come along.
So you've got a ball gown in the car, and I've got
in the
my
dry cleaners. I'm going to get it later. But yeah, we want to know, out of those 6 inductees, who would you pick if you could pick just one of those inductees?
Yeah,
it's a tricky one, isn't it?
They're all so good. I think I would go with Sergio Aguero, just because for a long, long time when he was at Manchester City, whether you talk to fans of City or not, if the ball went to him, it next went in the back of the net. What a player. Arguably
the best moment in Premier League history as well. I'm going to go for a true Chelsea legend, for Didier Drogba, 4-time Premier League winner, 104 Premier League goals and 2 golden boots as well. Not bad.
Yeah, I don't think any of them are bad choices, though.
No.
Whoever you want, let us know, #PLFans, and we'll read the best ones out on the show a little bit later.
And we'll start the show with a good night for Manchester City at the Etihad. Here are Pep Guardiola's thoughts after their 3-0 win against Brighton.
Excellent for the minute 1 until there's a good rhythm. A team like him put incredible good results, and against Arsenal, Tottenham away, and we didn't concede a lot, and we were incredible, aggressive and positive. We show again ourselves, not the people, ourselves. We're a decent team, and we know what you have to do. If we drop just 2 points, Liverpool will be champion, and if we win all games, we will be champion. And we are going to play. We have to play all the games, really tough fixtures that we have ahead of us. So, in the best way as possible. When he is mentally ready, and especially if he's fit and he's physical without problems, and he is a player like have an incredible, special thing, and he made an incredible performance.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about City's performance, shall we? And bring in Engin Kahal, who's commentator for Esport TV over in Turkey. Engin, thanks so much for joining us once again. Do you think, particularly in the first half, it looked a bit like City were feeling the nerves, feeling the pressure after what Liverpool had done to Manchester United and put the pressure on the night before?
Sure, not just the team, I think, the fans as well. You know, you could see around the stadium from time to time. So it was a really nervy atmosphere. And actually, when Mike Dean blew the first half whistle, Pep Guardiola was applauding his team. I think that was a conscious way of telling the people within the stadium, be calm, we are here. And I think they played not a bad first half. I mean, if we compare the Arsenal and Tottenham games of Brighton, they really didn't have a chance, you know, throughout the whole game. It was really hard for them to get a rhythm throughout the whole game. But it wasn't like that to City. Of course, Graham Potter had a plan. it was really interesting. Manchester City is a team who don't use the byline that often. So Lamptey and Solly March, they were both really in advanced position, so Brighton can counterattack. But as we've seen throughout the season, the defense of Manchester City is, extraordinary, and this set them apart in this game as well. And they didn't have a chance on target throughout the whole game. Just one Welbeck header, and that's it. They were a little bit lucky, of course, 2 goals from deflections, but at the end of the day, it was a very strong performance from City again.
Engin, it was Riyad Mahrez who opened the scoring, but how much credit does Kevin De Bruyne deserve for that first goal?
Whole credit. I think it was just him, it's really unbelievable. For a player in his caliber, he's that technical, but at the same time, you cannot take him down. There are so many instances in this position that he can be down, and he doesn't give up. He wants to stay on his feet. He wants to continue the play, and that's actually what brings the goal at the end. Of course, there's a deflection. Of course, Mahrez gets the credit of the goal, but I think it's like 80% to Kevin De Bruyne.
With De Bruyne, it's interesting, Engin, when you talk about him, because he didn't start the season too well, but he's really come into his own. And when we look over the course of the whole season and pick a player of the season, in a few weeks' time, I think earlier on everyone would have said Mo Salah, given the way that he started, the goals he was scoring, the assists, the way he was playing. De Bruyne wouldn't really have even been in the question. But now he's elevated himself and the level of consistency at the moment with goals and assists, similar to Salah, that you've got to say he's now in the conversation, isn't he?
For sure, and I think Adam, his play depends a lot on his physicality and how he feels. I think in the beginning of the season he had some injuries. He wasn't, consistently playing, so he couldn't get the rhythm. Right now, he's playing, he's getting better, and that gives him confidence, and that makes him a better player. And I think this year there's a big chance that he can break his record for goal tally in the Premier League as well. I think it was 13, and he's now 11. So there's a chance that he might get his best goal scoring tally of a Premier League season.
After City did score that first goal, there was only really ever going to be one winner, wasn't there? Just so much desire in that City side, because the title race could go right down to the wire, could even go down to goal difference, so they need as many goals as possible, don't they now?
Yeah, and that's quite interesting. Before this game, I was looking at the goal differences, and Liverpool were 9 ahead, and actually they scored 9 goals against United and conceded 0 goals. So that seemed like a tiebreaker there in terms of goal difference, but City made sure that this wasn't going to be a problem for them. It's not going to be easy at the end of the season if it's going to be goal difference for both teams, but I think the defense of Manchester City is what sets them apart. As you said, Alex, when they were ahead, so the game was off already in the 53rd minute.
And in your heart of hearts, Engin, can you see City slipping up, or will they continue to do what they did against Brighton? Even if they start a bit slow, a bit worried, a bit nervous, they'll keep getting the job done against these teams.
There are a couple of fixtures which will not be easy, I think. The Aston Villa game is one of them, which is the last game. The Wolves game away isn't an easy one, the West Ham game, but the 3 fixtures ahead of them is quite good. And if they can, in this time frame, can get the points tally a little bit larger, then I think they can hold on to the lead. But if Liverpool makes 3 in a row and wins 3 in a row, back-to-back wins, then it's going to be a really hard and tight affair. It's going to be like that anyway. We've seen, it's incredible that these 2 teams, how they make the other ones better during the season. It's a very similar situation to 2018-2019 when Liverpool had 97 points and they became the second best. But whatever we can see at the end of the season, we would surely be saying that it's going to be a pity for the team that finishes second this year.
It is Manchester City's to lose, looking at that, Engin, but it might really just come down to who plays first each weekend, who the pressure's on.
For sure. Liverpool's a team, they're very energetic. So it makes you, so if I was a City player and I watched the United game, I really would feel a little bit of letdown. They play so good, they play so energetic, and they want to. After the game, I think it was Thiago and Salah who came at the flash interview, and Salah was saying to Thiago, wait, there's going to be a derby at the end of the week, and that's going to be even better than this one. So they can't wait to play the next game. But I think that's true. So it's going to be a nervy situation for both teams, and it may come down at the end who can actually mentally can hold on to the lead.
It's funny. It's almost like a tennis match, isn't it?
Yeah.
Who serves first gets perhaps the advantage. Okay, Engin, we'll leave it with this. Who's going to win it? Is it going to be Manchester City or Liverpool?
I think it's going to be City.
There we go.
They're not going to slip up. Engin, great stuff. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll speak to you soon.
I always chose not to serve first. I didn't like the pressure of serving first.
Right.
You serve first.
If I flip the coin, it depends on the sun and all that kind of stuff. But I'd say serve first always. You've got to take the advantage.
Yeah, let's play after this. Right, well, moving on now to last night's London derby. 6 goals were scored at Stamford Bridge as Arsenal ran out 4-2 winners. And we can hear from both managers now. A very disappointed Thomas Tuchel and a delighted Mikel Arteta.
These London derbies are like that. The way they started the game, it was tactically really demanding. They constantly change the shape, positioning, and we have to adapt. We managed to grab a little bit the game. We look dangerous all the time in the counter. When we're arriving in the final third, we always looked a threat, scored 4 goals, conceded 2. What else? After 2 difficult weeks, it's a great day. What I love is the spirit of these players. And when you lose matches, you get punched and you get criticized. But for these players, I don't care because it's so worth it. They are phenomenal people. And as a group, they are really growing and they're really enjoying to have that. And then for our people, because I know that with all the hypes and the the expectation that they had has been really disappointing for them. So for us to win a London derby away from home the way we did it, I'm really happy for them as well.
3 own goals and 2 regular goals for us and 1 for Arsenal, and that makes it 4-2. They changed the tactics 3 times. We changed. It was also, I include myself, not on the highest level, but individually how we concede the goals is dramatic mistakes. There's like individual mistakes are like in the first goal, the third goal, and the fourth goal, completely individual mistakes from us. We decided to give a goal away for absolutely nothing, and we did the same against Real Madrid, and we did the same against, it cost us Champions League, and did the same against Brentford.
Now I'm delighted to say we're joined in the studio by 2 people we talk to a lot here on Premier League Today, but usually by the wonders of modern technology.
You exist in real life.
Yes.
We actually have a body, we don't just have a head on a screen,
Exactly.
so that's established.
Michelle Lee from Astro Supersport in Malaysia and Thomas Tordarson from Simin Sport in Iceland. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you.
The reason you're both here is obviously watch some Premier League games, not just to chat to us two, although we'd like that with the reason to be here too.
We definitely came here to meet both of you.
were both
The matches are a bonus.
You were both at this great game last night. Michelle, I'll come to you first. What did you make of it? We didn't see this coming from Arsenal, did we?
No, we certainly didn't, because obviously Arsenal coming off back-to-back losses as well. Their form certainly have dipped, partially due to injuries and partially I think the belief has been sort of drained out of them after the losses. But even going into the match, when I was speaking to Carlton Cole and Martin Keown, both of them weren't very optimistic about Arsenal's chances. Carlton Cole said it's going to be 3-0 for Chelsea. It's going to be a comfortable win, especially after the fact that they just booked their spot in the FA Cup final. But both sides' defences didn't turn up. That was the most surprising thing as well. And considering Chelsea's defensive record, I think that was probably the most disappointing aspect of Chelsea's game last night. But it was a great game overall for the neutral. I mean, 6 goals. You know, what more can you ask for a game, for a London derby like this, honestly?
Thomas, what did you make of Chelsea's performance? Because we heard Thomas Tuchel speaking there, a lot of excuses. He even blamed the pitch for Andreas Christensen's mistake at the back. Were you shocked with actually how poor they were last night?
Especially defensively, because it was Thomas Tuchel's like 50th Premier League game in charge, and he had already gotten like 29 clean sheets. You know, they build, from the back, and they've been so unbelievably good defensively. But last night it was just a shocker, like time and time again. And even though Thomas Tuchel was blaming the pitch, Andreas Christensen just blamed himself, especially for the first goal. But it was really shocking to see, and I didn't quite understand what Tuchel was doing with like Reece James as a centre half, with Azpilicueta out to the right instead of having Reece James there. Christensen had a bad game, and Malang Sarr also, and they just could not cope with Bukayo Saka on the right for Arsenal. They could not keep up with him, not a chance, especially not Marcos Alonso, because as good as he is going forward as a defensive wing back, he is not maybe top class.
Why do you think defensively they've sort of fallen apart? Because if you look at 10 goals conceded in 3 games at Stamford Bridge, this is chalk and cheese to what their form was at the start of the season.
Yeah, I think it's just mentally. You don't get bad, defensively overnight.
Yeah,
they've for a long time now. After they had that bad spell in the beginning of the year, they, kind of missed out on that title. They led the Premier League, close to Christmas, but now they are really playing for nothing. They're, in the cup and they were in the Champions League, but they're just sitting very, very comfortably comfortable third spot, and I think it's just coming up that it's hard playing for nothing.
They really missed Antonio Rudiger as well last night,
Yeah.
but they might have to make do with him next season
Yeah.
as well, so they're going to have to get used to playing without him.
And Arteta made a huge call, didn't he, beforehand, to put in Eddie Nketiah, not Alexandre Lacazette, who's the most experienced player, the more senior player in the dressing room as well. And from that first goal, it paid off, didn't it? It was a great performance from Nketiah.
Yeah, I think Lacazette was recovering from illness. I think it might have been COVID, because last week he said it was COVID, wasn't it? But I was a little bit more surprised by the fact that Nketiah came in for Martinelli, because Martinelli has been really such a bright spark for Arsenal despite their recent form. But I think Nketiah really had a big opportunity and obviously made a big case last night over at Stamford Bridge, and his future has been sort of up in the air with Arsenal, hasn't it? Because they're talking about wanting to bring in more strikers in the summer. But he certainly put in a really good case. And with the 2 goals that he scored yesterday, I think he's certainly in for a shout to start against Manchester United. That's a big one.
Meant a huge amount to him as well, because obviously he used to play at Chelsea as well. I thought Mikel Arteta's comments were interesting after the game, because he said it's actually unfair that he hasn't been playing Eddie Nketiah. He sort of almost apologised for it.
Well, you had Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang before, and then Alexander Lacazette, who are, of course, in front of Eddie Nketiah in the pecking order for Arsenal. But, his performance really summed up, Arsenal's performance last night, because it was a surprising performance from Arsenal. They had lost 3, on the spin and hadn't really been good. And then they came out just guns blazing, pressing Chelsea, and they had so much belief and so much hunger and so much will. And it was just fitting that Eddie Nketiah, who's been, highly criticised, was probably the man of the match.
Despite the disappointing start for Chelsea, they did make a game of it. And one of the bright sparks for them recently has been Timo Werner. And having got that goal against Real Madrid, his confidence has been elevated, and I think he wouldn't really have done this if he hadn't sort of got some of that confidence back. He's playing with a bit more passion now.
Yeah, I think there was always a lot of pressure on him last season. Obviously, he didn't live up to the billing. I think of late we're seeing a little bit more out of it, but as you mentioned, it is the confidence seeping in, and you want to see more from Timo Werner. The more goals he scored, the more confidence he's going to get. And I think last night there was no way of stopping Timo Werner there. He was just way too quick, even though the Arsenal defenders tried to close him down. Honestly, Timo Werner has that pace, but it seems to be working out. It's just about a matter of consistency for Timo Werner.
Credit to him as well that he's never dropped his head, even when he hasn't been playing well, when he's been getting criticised. Maybe the opposite to what we've seen with Romelu Lukaku.
Most definitely, and Romelu Lukaku's poor form is putting a lot of pressure on the other players to perform and to provide goals. I mean, Mason Mount has been brilliant, Timo Werner has been very, very good over the last couple of weeks, and they have to, because they really don't have a number 9, and we saw it in the game when Lukaku, who did nothing for 60 minutes, came off the pitch. I mean, Arteta just pulled his team back, just sat deep and let them come, and they had, almost didn't have a chance to score a goal.
Yeah.
That was a thing, I think, that struck me watching the highlights of the game. It was a mature performance from Arsenal, that they got the early goal, they had a long time to sit on it, they were able to score more goals. It seems like this team is you can see the evolution under Mikel Arteta. They're moving forward.
I mean, last night was just a tactical masterpiece from Mikel Arteta, as simple as that. I mean, they practiced all week, a 3-man defense just to be ready for it. They came into the game. After 1 minute, Granit Xhaka was pulling his hand up, and I thought, he was injured. I thought he was coming off, but he was giving Arteta and his staff just signals on what Chelsea were playing. So then Arteta came to the touchline, and they changed the tactics after 1 minute, and then he changed the tactics like 2 or 3 times during the match. And as I say, for the last 30 minutes, when Chelsea really, really needed a goal, they didn't have a sniff.
I think we cannot underestimate mental strength as well on this Arsenal side. And you're talking about a really, really young squad that, because of the injuries that they've had, they do lack a bit of a leadership and experience, both on pitch and in that dressing room as well. And I think Bukayo Saka and Eddie Nketiah came out after the match to say they were low on confidence. It was Mikel Arteta and his words that brought them back. And with young players, it is quite difficult when you don't have that sort of experienced senior players to look at, and mentally it can be a little bit, it can struggle for them. But for these young players, which I think, if I'm not mistaken, has got to be one of the youngest Premier League starting 11 in the London derby. I could be mistaken in that stat, but it is certainly one of the youngest. To be able to pull out a performance like that against European champions, against the Chelsea side that were in form almost, I think mentally, you've got to give credit to a lot of these young players.
Yeah, you've got to be mentally very strong. One of those players who is mentally strong and very young is Emil Smith-Rowe. It was a touch of class from him for Arsenal's second goal. He likes scoring at Stamford Bridge, doesn't he?
But this was a great finish. I think it was a counter-attacking goal. Bukayo Saka obviously running down the flanks with his speed as well, passing it on to Martin Odegaard, who he himself has been a bit of a leader in this side, in this midfield. You see him kind of giving instructions to everyone on the pitch, even to the senior players as well. That obviously, what a brilliant finish by Emil Smith-Rowe.
I mean, me and Michelle were sitting just very close by to Mikel Arteta, and he just absolutely went bonkers when that goal went in, because it started from their own penalty box. Everything about the goal just sums up once what Arteta wants to see from his team. They win the ball in the penalty box. It's 4 passes, 80 yards, and a goal on the other side, and he just went nuts. He loved that goal, and it was a brilliant goal from start to finish.
The slight frustration for the away fans was similar to the first time. They then let a goal in fairly swiftly after that.
Yeah, they did. I think what Arsenal's issues were that they just couldn't focus. Just a couple of minutes after scoring a goal, which obviously led Chelsea to equalise twice now. But they did look a little bit better after the break. I felt after the break they were a little bit more, their concentration levels were certainly better.
It was a striker's finish there from Azpilicueta, wasn't it?
Yeah, coming from a defender as well, it's quite something.
I just love the celebration. He's just such a soldier. He just pointed at the badge to the Arsenal fans, like, you're in my house, and then just straight back to work. It was brilliant, celebration from the goal, and good finish.
So passionate as well. You could see him at the end with that fan as well. He wanted to hear what he was saying. It's not often that you see a player go up and actually speak with the fans.
Yeah, and a lot of people thought, they were arguing or something, but he was really just talking to the fans, and they would just tell him keep on fighting, and he was just answering them. We're still in this. We're all together. It was
you could see by the end they sort of sorted it out.
I think the fans put their hands up and said,
you're right. Not tonight.
It was a brilliant moment, really.
Yeah.
You were both paying credit to the tactical job that Mikel Arteta did, and part of that was the half-time team talk. Whatever he said, whatever he gave them, it worked. And Nketiah with the second goal, and this was where the momentum moved to Arsenal, and then they kept it. Unlike the first half where they gave it back to Chelsea, they kept moving forward.
Yeah, I think you can certainly look at Malang Sarr for this one. But in Nketiah's second goal, I think, as I mentioned earlier, he's putting on a really good case for starting against Manchester United. And I think next season, I think it was Martin Keown and Carlton Cole who both agreed there certainly is a role for Eddie Nketiah in Arsenal next season. Whether he is the man to lead the line in the future, maybe not so much. They're still perhaps looking for a sort of a big name striker for this Arsenal side to take them to the next level. But both of them agreed that certainly is a role for Nketiah next season.
Here's the penalty incident. Not often we see Cesar Azpilicueta make a mistake like that. From your point of view, where you were sat, was that a penalty?
Yeah, no question about it. If you're not, thinking about the ball, if you're not playing football, just, point to the penalty spot.
I just thought it was really disappointing because with Azpilicueta and his experience, why would you go in on Bukayo Saka like that when it was no actual threat, to be honest? To make that decision, whether it was a bit of Carlton pointed it to maybe a bit of panic, a bit of desperation, wanting to get something and making the wrong decision. But like you said, he wasn't looking at the ball.
No, it was just like disbelief. Just like I said, Nketiah's performance summed up Arsenal's performance. That was, from Cesar Azpilicueta in stoppage time, it really summed up Chelsea's night, especially the second half. They really gave up.
Yeah, I don't know if you noticed. Actually, I was watching Thomas Tuchel during that foul, and he barely had a reaction. You'd think most of the time if it wasn't a penalty, he'll try to protest and speak to somebody, but he
wasn't speaking about after the game either. He did bring that up as an excuse. The pitch may be an excuse, but he didn't talk about the penalty decision.
Thomas Tuchel sat down after 9 minutes. Didn't stand up.
Chatting with his staff, obviously, about the game, but he didn't react to that.
No, and he didn't stand up for the last half an hour.
From Arsenal's perspective, that's made the fight for the top four very, very interesting, because it looked like they were sort of slipping out of it here. These are the games
in a row, and then
remaining for Spurs, Arsenal and Manchester United. For both of you, Michelle, I'll start with you. Where do you think it's going to go?
This is so tricky.
It's so tough to call now.
It is so tough, and I would expect a lot more twists and turns with these three sides because they aren't the most consistent sides. We saw Manchester United implode against Liverpool just 48 hours ago. Arsenal as well, you're so touch and go with them. Tottenham, I would say maybe has a bit of the better chance because Antonio Conte's experience, you've got arguably more experienced players as well and better quality players to some level in comparison to Arsenal. United have got quality players, but unfortunately they're not playing like a team at the moment and it doesn't seem like that's going to turn around anytime soon. So I'd say Tottenham a little bit more. I don't know about you, Thomas.
The only thing I can tell you is Man United is out of it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah.
That's not a team that's playing over there, and they don't stand a chance. I mean, me and Michelle get subscriptions to sell and advertisements, to make. So let's just hope the North London derby.
I was going to say, can you stay here until the 12th of May? Can you stay here until the North London derby?
I'll definitely be back at least.
Yeah, well, you'll be here for that.
Yeah, I'm just going to say that's going to be a final for the Champions League spot because sometimes
that's going to decide it.
Yeah. Because sometimes it seems they don't really want to go into the Champions League. They're on a run and they lose like 2 or 3 on the spin. But yeah, I couldn't pick between Arsenal and Spurs at the moment.
Where are you guys off to this weekend?
Home.
Home. You're no games for you.
No, I'm just going back to the studio.
Oh, okay.
And the warmth of Iceland.
Okay.
I'm actually going to be here. I'm going to be covering the Arsenal, Manchester United, and Chelsea West Ham with you as well. So I'll see you there. Brilliant.
I can get invited to anything. Yeah.
We'll call you.
Michelle, I've been told you've got to go. So thank you so much.
Yeah, I've got Ian Wright waiting, so you can't keep
we understand
waiting,
inductee.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah. Me, sadly not.
Thomas, you're stuck with us.
You're staying with
Sorry.
us. Thank you so much. We've had loads of these tweets in, haven't we?
Yeah.
Hard to choose, and I think that's reflected in the tweets. Himanshu says Paul Scholes, because I love box-to-box midfielders.
And Mr. Dalton says, I disagree, they're all equal. Yeah, good answer. But he says, I vouch for Sergio Kun Aguero due to his consistency in goals. He is the GOAT.
And a couple more, still on 14. Drogba was prolific, but you can't take away the clinical finishes of Aguero. All inductees this morning had their exceptional moments in the Premier League. Kudos, #PL fans.
And Obring Pong says, I'm going in for Ian Wright.
Yes.
Keep them coming in. Yes.
Michelle.
Let him know. Use the #PL fans on Twitter. Let us know who, if you had to pick one of the 6 new inductees, who would it be? In part 2, we'll be discussing a dramatic night on Merseyside. Richarlison, the hero, with a late goal to secure a vital point for Everton.
Welcome back to Premier League Today. It's a busy show today, isn't it? Everton picked up what could be a crucial point last night against Leicester, thanks to an injury-time goal from Richarlison. Afterwards, Frank Lampard said he was impressed with how his players kept fighting.
It's a tough match. On chances, we deserved the point. On general play, first half, we weren't quite at our best, and Leicester played well. Second half, much better from us. And as I say, created enough chances to feel like we deserved something from the game, and finally we got it. Leicester played well, give us some problems in terms of possession. We were off the mark. We normally fly out really here at Goodison, and we didn't today. And that can happen sometimes, and it's unfortunate you concede because that obviously makes it a longer night and in many different ways. But really happy with the spirit. It's not easy. I told the players at half time we needed to lift. We needed to lift the attitude. We needed to lift the desire and intensity in our play. They did that, and they kept fighting to the end, and that's important at this point.
They certainly did keep fighting. Thomas Torderson, Premier League editor at Simmons Sport in Iceland, is still with us here in the studio. Thomas, how surprised are you that Everton are in a relegation battle? Did you see it coming at the start of the season?
Definitely not. Pulling the Monday, morning quarterback, of course, I'm not surprised having watched them all season. They've been absolutely horrendous. And, from the top down, the decisions they've made, bringing in Marcel Brands, and he's supposed to buy all the players. And when they really needed a coach, a coach to coach this team, they went on and got Rafa Benitez, who also wants to have full control. So you have clash of heads, and he goes off, sells their best left back. It's been just disarray at Everton this season. Very poor team, unlucky with injuries. So I'm not surprised now. But going back to the start of the question, if you asked me in August of 2021, not a chance.
And the fans would have been fearing the worst because it was the worst possible start, wasn't it? Conceding early against Leicester, weren't playing well at all. And they needed that fighting spirit that Lampard spoke about in order to get back in the game after this.
I mean, if anything is going to save them, it's going to be Goodison Park and the people, in the stands. Because, and also it helps that Leicester, have really nothing to play for, and they've been really suboptimal for a long time now. But let's not take anything away from Everton. They really showed a fighting spirit and could have scored a couple of more. So, fair play, and then we need to have Everton in the Premier League. They can't go down. This is one of the big stalwart clubs. It's a club that belongs in the Premier League.
As you say, they could have scored a couple more. What about the Richarlison miss in the first half? Do you think the fans, the players were starting to think maybe this just isn't our night?
I think the best tweet I saw last night was that no one hates Everton more than Richarlison, which pretty unfair, but it was a good joke. But he gets himself into these opportunities, and of course it's a horrendous miss. But who's the man who saves him in the end?
Let's talk a bit about Dele Alli, shall we? Because he came on. Lampard spoke afterwards about how impressed he was with the performance he gave after coming on. And it's interesting, you can give us a good perspective on this, because whenever we talk to fans of the Premier League from abroad, when Dele Alli was doing what he was doing at Spurs, when he was in his peak, he was one of the players everyone absolutely loved. They loved watching him. You never knew what was going to come next. He was always a flash of brilliance away from a great goal or an assist. And he just seems to have lost that. Where do you think it's gone wrong from him? And do you think you saw, perhaps last night in some of the recent performances, that he can get back to his best?
I mean, probably in an interview, maybe on this couch in maybe 10 years, he's going to tell you what happened. But, his head is just gone. And it's been a long time now. As you say, watching him play 5 years ago, I thought he was going to be the best player in the world. Certainly the best English player maybe we've ever seen. And, there were talks of like £100 million transfers to Real Madrid or Barcelona or, whatever. He was just unbelievable and, on his day, just absolutely unplayable. But, this steady decline has been just amazing to watch and a very sad watch, of course, but, it's just going down and down and down and down. And then, Frank Lampard gets him into Everton, speaks very highly of him, and then he doesn't even get into the starting lineup. So there is something massively wrong, and probably, his head is really not in it. But we have to hope he gets his feet under him again and gets, and shows us something of that Dele Alli brilliance.
I remember those images when he arrived, greeting Frank Lampard. He said, "We got it done." There was so much excitement, so much hope.
Yeah.
However, he did play a part in the equaliser. It wasn't a great goal that Richarlison scored, but still, it was the point that mattered, and actually how huge that goal could prove. It was a massive point, wasn't it?
Massive, and they really just need all hands on deck. And if Dele Alli can give them something in the last games of the season just to secure that relegation, in the relegation battle to secure the spot. They are not going to go down. Burnley and Watford are going down, so it's all clear skies for Everton to play another season in the Premier League. But just to make sure they need something more than just Richarlison. Dominic Calvert-Lewin hasn't been on fire. I think he hasn't got a goal in this calendar year. So if they can get an assist or two from Dele Alli, and maybe Donny van de Beek shows up for the last game of the season, they are going to stay up. But as I say, they need all hands on deck now.
You think they will stay up then?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I bet the Everton fans will be hoping they could bottle whatever Newcastle are working on at the moment, because it's been an absolutely amazing turnaround from them. They won last night against Crystal Palace 1-0. It was Miguel Almiron with the goal. Watch this, an absolutely brilliant strike from him to just flick it over the keeper into the top corner to give Newcastle 3 points. They held on after that as well, because that was in the first half. And now, I think we were saying earlier on in the show, they're closer to the European places than the relegation zone. Could you believe this turnaround?
No, I have faith in Eddie Howe. I really love him as a manager. He is brilliant. And you remember when he was with Bournemouth, people always saying, what if he would get that massive budget? Well, he would get the Spurs job, maybe even the Man United job when Mourinho was going out. And it shows, he spent a lot of money in the January transfer window, but it's not like he bought Kylian Mbappe. He bought Dan Burn and Chris Wood and of course Bruno Guimaraes. But Eddie Howe just has a plan. He came in, he looked at his squad and he knows exactly what he wants to do. You see in all these 6 wins over the last 9 games, they have like 30 to 34% possession. They know they're not good enough to keep the ball, so they just sit and defend with Dan Burn, just absolutely amazing, just controlling that defense. Then they have this new lease on life in Joelinton in midfield, Bruno Guimaraes coming in, and then the speed and of course the brilliance of Alain Saint-Maximin going forward. He has a clear plan. They defend the goal, they break, and they win. Matches like 1-0 usually.
So what has made the biggest difference? Would you say all credit has to go to Eddie Howe?
Yeah, most definitely, and Dan Burn. If we look at the new guys, Dan Burn and Eddie Howe, deserve the most praise. But then it's just Alain Saint-Maximin. I could watch him play for 17 hours straight.
dancing on the ball yesterday. That was that was brilliant.
He is absolutely brilliant. And then if Miguel Almiron, my guy from Atlanta United, if he can, score a goal like that, that was like his first goal of the season. And what a way to score your first goal.
Yeah, the atmosphere as well at St James's Park is, when Newcastle are winning and playing well.
That's another point, because it's so easy, like doing good things with Newcastle. You just have to win one game and they will love you for a month. And if you win 6 games, they love you forever.
It's a great incentive for the players when you have a fan base like that.
Miguel Almiron is not scoring a goal like that, anywhere else than at, St James's Park.
Thomas, great stuff. Thanks so much for coming to speak
Safe
to
trip
us.
home.
Nice to meet you. And
you
exactly.
too, guys.
We'll see you back on the big screen soon.
I'll be there.
Yeah.
We'll speak to you very, very soon, sadly, down the line.
Yeah.
The tweets have been coming in. Which of these players was the best of those inductees to the Hall of Fame? Pepe Rorona says Didier Drogba, legend. Can't forget the goal he scored against Liverpool. Chest trap, turn and shoot technique was outstanding.
Ahmad Juma says a true Premier League legend who deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. Congratulations, Ricey. And then Nuhu says definitely Vincent Kompany, captain, fantastic. Keep those coming in on Twitter. Use the hashtag PLFans.
Yes, we'll read some more out in part 3. Also in part 3, we look ahead to tonight's Premier League action. Another game to look forward to. Huge one of managerless Burnley against Southampton. We will be live with a preview at Turf Moor next.
Hello and welcome back to Premier League today. Burnley take on Southampton at Turf Moor later on. We can head there now. Ian Irving is live there. 9 hours to go until kick-off. It's a big night for Burnley in their battle at the bottom, isn't it, Ian?
It certainly is. It's a beautiful day here at Burnley as well, but cameraman Ben has done brilliant. He's found the very corner of the stadium that it's at. It's actually the coldest place, I think, at Turf Moor. So if there's any shivering going on, it's not nerves ahead of a big night for Burnley. It's just the fact we're a little bit cold. I'm joined by Natalie Bromley, a Burnley podcaster. Natalie, huge night this for Burnley, isn't it? Certainly against Southampton. But that result last night for Everton, does that leave the door open just a little bit, the fact that they dropped points again?
Yeah, I think it does, and I think more than anything it's probably quite disappointing for Everton. They've got some really tough fixtures coming up, and on paper at home against Leicester would have been one of the ones that they were looking to win. The fact that they didn't and they had to rely on a very late draw, I think will be a bit of a psychological boost to them. So yeah, definitely a better result for us than I think it could have been.
Okay, I mean we'll preview the match against Southampton in a moment, but this is also of course the first time that Burnley will play at Turf Moor without Sean Dyche in that dugout for a decade. It's incredible really in a way. Is the news still sinking in at this point, or have Burnley fans got used to the idea, and what sort of a reaction do you think there'll be amongst the stands tonight?
I think the dust has definitely settled, and I think people are a lot calmer. It was definitely a shock. We didn't expect it. I think most Burnley fans were expecting it in the summer. For it to come at the time that it did, 8 games before the end of the season, felt a very strange timing for our perspective.
The right decision, though, in the opinion of fans, do you think?
Very, very mixed. You'll come across some Burnley fans who are absolutely opposed to it and think it's an awful decision. You'll have similar amount of fans who have appreciated that it was about time. We knew that his time was coming to an end. It felt like it was the right time, but we all expected at the end of the season, not with 8 really clear games to go. So it's a bit of a difficult one, really.
Yeah, what about seeing Ben Mee in the dugout? That's going to be an interesting twist. I know he's technically not in charge, is he, of course, but as a figurehead for the club there, I mean, he's a popular player, isn't he? And I'm sure that'll be a popular sight for Burnley fans to see.
I think it's just more reassuring than anything. When you change a manager after such a long time and you're not used to seeing anything else, to have that continuity, to have a player that's so well respected, it just brings that link between fan and dugout, I think, and I think it's really important. And it gives an element of calm, I think, to this very, very strange time that we're in at the moment.
Yeah, another strange thing as well, the last time that Burnley played here was that massive result against Everton, that huge victory, the turnaround win there. It seemed to change the mood around this club and give everyone belief, and then it's kind of been undone, hasn't it? A lot happened since that last home game. So how's Southampton going to go later?
I think we'll win. I think because the reality of the Norwich result and the disappointment from that has sunk in. We've been given another lifeline again with Everton only picking up. Obviously they beat United, but only getting a draw last night. We are 4 points behind, but we can easily claw that back. If we win tonight, we're only 1 point behind Everton, and we get to play Wolves at the weekend. They're going to Liverpool. So if we win 2 back-to-back and they don't beat Liverpool, they're in the relegation zone and we're not, and the pressure's on on them, not us. So I think tonight's our last chance to resurrect something for this season, and I think you'll get, irrespective of what's happened with Dyche, I think you'll get a bumper crowd, you'll get excitement, and they'll get behind the boys for sure.
Yeah, so we've got another must-win situation, haven't we then?
Yes.
Yeah, we've said that so many times this year. Let's talk about Wout Weghorst if we can finally, because of course he came with such a fanfare, didn't he, in January, and he started well. There was real signs at the start that he was going to be maybe a transformative signing for Burnley. Finding the net against West Ham will help him, but it was more the way that the team played that seemed to suit him a bit more. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely. I think one of my real frustrations with Dyche towards the end of this season has very much been his apparent reluctance to change the style of play. We brought Weghorst in and Corners to offer something different, yet as a team tactically it was almost like we were still playing with Chris Wood and Ashley Barnes up top. It was very long balls, direct balls from defence, bypassing midfield for them to try and win the ball in the air or head on to the other one, and that's not Weghorst's style of play. He's fantastic with his feet, and if we can get the ball on the deck, having Jack Cork in midfield is a huge help as well. Clearly the circumstances of Cork coming on is not what anybody wanted, but he's in there now and he can put the ball on the deck, put it to his feet, and the fact that we've got a penalty at West Ham just shows you it's the first time in a long time that we've had a player running at defenders in the box and driving forward and trying to make something happen. It's no coincidence.
Yeah, it might be Weghorst on penalties as well tonight if you get one out, considering how the Cornet one went. On Weghorst as well, he's not scored yet here at Turf Moor. He's got 2 goals, one at Brighton, one at West Ham in the last match like we've just seen. What would it mean to him and for you to see him score here? That's almost a key factor, isn't it, for him to try and have a great end to this season, which helps Burnley stay in the Premier League?
Definitely, and you hear a lot of strikers talk all over the team saying that strikers thrive off goals because that's their job, and Weghorst knows that he was brought in here to replace Chris Wood to get goals for the side. He hasn't quite been able to find that yet. It's been a little bit frustrating, mainly because of the style of football we're playing. If he can start scoring goals now that helps us in this crucial last 7 games, he'll know he's done his job and he'll know that he has contributed to however this season ends.
Just to sum it up then, how exactly are you feeling ahead of the match tonight?
I'm all right.
Are you sure?
No. No, I am. I'm okay. I think I mentally accepted what our likely fate will be after that Brentford result. We are clinging on there and clearly we'll support them until it's mathematically impossible, but I think the biggest disappointment for me was after that Brentford result when we lost there, and Norwich as well. So I've already sort of emotionally prepared myself for the fact that there's a good chance we'll be in the Championship next season, which is fine, by the way. It's a great division and that's fine. It's not the end of the world, but until it's actually mathematically done, all we can do is just support them. So
yeah, there's still hope.
Yeah, there's still hope. So I'm all right. I'm calm.
Good.
For now.
Enjoy the day. Enjoy the build-up to the match. As you can see, the groundsmen here are just preparing the pitch for the match later on. It's a huge night for Burnley, a must-win game for them once again if they are to stay in the Premier League against Southampton. The first match without Sean Dyche, whichever way you look at it, should be an interesting occasion, no doubt.
Ian, go and get yourself in that sunshine. Thanks a lot. That's Ian Irving live on Premier League Today from Turf Moor.
Yes, it's going to be a huge game there later. Now, earlier we were talking about the 6 new inductees for the Premier League Hall of Fame. They are Ian Wright, Peter Schmeichel, Paul Scholes, Didier Drogba, Vincent Kompany and Sergio Aguero. And here's a little reminder of what they all could do.
Some incredible moments there, incredible players. To discuss them, assistant editor at the Daily Mirror, Darren Lewis, joins us now. Darren, we're asking our fans on Twitter to pick just one of the 6 new inductees. It's not easy, but if you had to pick just one of those 6 names, could you? And who would it be?
I could. I'd pick Wrighty, partly because I'm on the show with him later. But in all seriousness, I think Wrighty was not just a magnificent goal scorer. He was a scorer of great goals. He was a fantastic footballer, and also he was an iconoclast because he didn't just score pearlers like these, but he came through the amateur ranks, the semi-professional ranks, and he told young boys like me, like my brother, like my friends, that they could do it, they could mix it with the best. We saw some of the others, and we've seen so many wonderful players in English football over the years from abroad. But here was a guy who was able to, come from the kind of humble beginnings that so many other young black kids came from and do that. and he was a wonderfully consistent footballer. If you're looking at the numbers, you know, he was Arsenal's top scorer in 6 seasons. In 4 of those 6 seasons, he scored over 30 goals. He was a wonderfully consistent footballer. He won the FA Cup and League Cup double, the UEFA Cup, the Cup Winners' Cup. He did the double with Arsenal in 1998 with Arsene Wenger. He was a guy who... he was a social icon as well at difficult moments in English football, in English society. And so in some respects, for many people, you talk about inspiring a generation. He was a guy who did that. So is he a Hall of Famer? Absolutely. He is a guy who, for some people, transcended football.
Let's make the case, Darren, for another a great striker, Sergio Aguero, slightly more recent perhaps than Wrighty. It was interesting with Aguero because, you know, he came here from abroad. People didn't, he was a great player pre-Manchester City, but people didn't know perhaps too much about him when he came into English football. His English wasn't always perfect. There were elements where perhaps he didn't always connect as well with English football and the fans, but what did connect with everybody to do with Manchester City and opposing teams didn't want to see him on the team sheet was his ability, his unbelievable ability to, whatever position he was in, get the ball in the back of the net.
Yeah, this is a guy with ice in his veins. And the thing that struck me the most about Aguero when he arrived was that he arrived in a period where a lot of top players came to English football past their peak, but he came at his peak in his mid-20s, and when he arrived he was sheer quality from the outset. Ice in his veins, the ability to score great goals, composure in the final third that very few other players had, and the ability to turn big games. We all know what he did on that famous afternoon in, was it 2013? But I think he was so much more than that. 15 major trophies with Manchester City. A guy who embodies everything that the club were trying to do, because when they signed him, they made it clear that they were serious about what they wanted to do, and this was their point man to do
He's
that.
the one on that list, isn't he? It's just about the football. You mentioned what Wrighty's done off the pitch, and he's done so much, hasn't he? He was a great player and also has done so much for the Premier League as a role model. But Aguero, it was just about scoring goals.
Absolutely.
That was all it was ever
Those
about.
are numbers. I mean, look at the bottom right-hand corner of the screen and you can see the numbers. 84 goals in 275 appearances. With him, he was a pure finisher. If you gave him the ball in the final third, you had a fair amount of certainty that he was going to stick it away. And that is a big reason why City were able to go from strength to strength. He is a wonderful, wonderful footballer, and you would hang your hat on him 9 times out of 10.
Yes, all 6 of those new inductees thoroughly deserving of their place in the Premier League Hall of Fame. Now moving on to tonight's game at Turf Moor. There's a big one for Burnley up against Southampton. How much do they need these 3 points, and do you believe they can get a result tonight?
They need them massively. I was listening to Natalie a second ago, and she had a bit of cautious optimism, but also realism as well, because they just don't score enough goals at home. They're one of the lowest scorers in the Premier League at home. They've only won 5 of their 31 Premier League games this season, and that's the reason why they're in the bottom 3. They can't defend either. They just keep shipping them. And I suppose, really, I mean, I know you got your countdown clock in there, but they're counting down to going down, because Southampton in a better vein of form. They won their last season, if I'm not mistaken, and I think as far as Southampton are concerned, yes, their away form isn't brilliant, 3 wins out of their 15 Premier League games so far this season, but they've got the firepower to score past the Burnley. Indeed, beat Arsenal, and I think as far as Southampton are concerned, they've got a manager who wants to kind of keep them at it and not get the flip-flops on too soon, because you know some clubs in mid-table, they're already thinking about
planning
the beach.
Their holidays.
Yeah, absolutely, the sun lounger.
I've got the T-shirt on already. There was an interesting moment, wasn't there, at the weekend with this penalty situation, because the penalty was given against West Ham to Burnley. Now, Jay Rodriguez has a fabulous record of scoring penalties, but then this happened. Cornet went and took the ball off him and said, "Give it to me," and we know what happened after that.
When you
What's going on here?
When you do what Cornet did there, there's Mike Jackson on the bed. When you do what he did, you have to score. Don't give me any hard luck stories. Don't tell me this or that happened. You have to score. and Cornet didn't. And that's why he's trying to think of what excuse he can give to his teammates in the dressing room right there. He made a mistake. If Sean Dyche was still managing the club, and
he wouldn't have let that happen.
He would never have let that happen. He would have basically said, "We got a plan, stick to the plan." Mike Jackson's been talking since. He said they had an internal meeting. Everyone said what they had to say, and in future they'll have a clear idea about what they want to do. Must just quickly say, Sean Dyche has issued a statement this morning through the League Managers Association, thanking everyone at the club, thanking all the people for their good wishes after he was sacked last weekend. But yeah, I don't think he'd have let that happen.
Darren, thank you so much for coming in. Great to see you as always. There is a big game at Turf Moor tonight as Burnley take on Southampton. We'll see you tomorrow for all the fallout. It's bye for now.
See you then.